This, my friends, is the Amazfit Balance 2. No doubt, Amazfit has been killing it with some of its latest models like the Cheetah Pro, Bip 6, and T-Rex 3, but let me ask you this. Does a top-of-the-line $300 model like the Balance 2 have any place in the flagship smartwatch space? I mean, why would you cross-shop this with an Apple Watch OS or Wear OS device or even a Garmin? Well, allow me to share my thoughts on why you should. The Amazfit Balance 2 retails for $300, and as you can see, it has a 1.5-inch AMOLED display with 2000 nits peak, and that's super bright, really nice for outdoor under direct sunlight viewing, guys. And it's protected by a layer of sapphire glass, which is 9 out of 10 on the Mohs hardness scale. That's just behind a diamond, for crying out loud. It also has dual frequency satellite tracking, some of the best there, and we'll talk more about that later on in the show. It also has, or at least new to this watch, something called BioCharge as well as golf course mode, among other things. But strangely, both of those features have been redacted right now or temporarily disabled. The first one, BioCharge, they're trying to tweak it to match this watch better, so Amazfit took it down to get it back at a later time. But the golf course mode, depending on the country, I have it on my watch right now. I'm based in the US, but other countries have noticed, or users in other countries have noticed, that has been taken down, and Amazfit says that's due to the lack of interest. I'm not sure why there. Now, battery life on this thing, I can get 10 days easy on this, or 7.5 to 8 days with like 1 hour satellite track activity per day. Always on display plus email message and phone notifications all turned on. That's really fantastic. The weight on this thing is 44 grams without the strap, and this also has 10 ATM water resistance, and the casing is rated for scuba and free diving to 45 meters. I have to say that Amazfit's industrial designers and engineers have been on point lately, from their base model all the way up in terms of build quality and materials at the very least, not to mention the innards and all that. Just from an outward perspective, everybody I've showed the watch to thought it's more expensive than it actually is, and they all really like the design. I mean, most people will balk at the price, but watch appreciators really like the design, like the slightly glossy bezel on the surround of the screen that contrasts with the matte aluminum alloy chassis or FRP outer case right here. It is really nice and well put together too. Everything, the seam lines are nice and tight. It's really hard to fault for what it is, and the strap is also fantastic. Really, really nice design. You will like it, and it's held up to abuse, guys. I've treated this not very kindly, and not a single lick, no scratch whatsoever, which bodes well for longevity. Now, the casing or the design itself, as you can see, on one side there's no buttons. You can switch locations of the buttons, of course, in the app or in the watch, depending on how you like your button orientation. And on this side, we have the crown that can be used for navigating, and there is a press button as well, and here is another back button or another shortcut button right there. On both sides of the case, on here, I'm not sure it will show up on the camera, are 2 slots. They're speaker slots, and it's not 2 slots for one speaker, but 2 separate speakers. So if you block one side, the other side still has sound coming out of it, which is great. And there's also one mic to handle phone calls, as well as the Amazfit's AI, which is called Flow. And there's also a haptics motor, which is good enough. It's not the strongest, I would say. And in the box, there's 2 straps. There's the orange one as well as a black one in case you want to switch it out, which is really nice to see. Testing, 1, 2, 3. I'm holding the watch about 1 feet away from my mouth as I'm talking in a quiet room. How does everything sound here? Testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we're outdoors. I'm holding the mic also 1 foot away from my mouth. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Here comes the car. Test, 1, 2, 3. Another truck passing through. How's the sound suppression on that one? And there is wind coming from my right side, about 2 to 3 miles an hour. Not that big of a deal. Here comes another car. Test. 1, 2, 3. One thing nice about the Balance 2 is that it works in tandem as well as independently with other Amazfit accessories that you might have, like the Helio ring or the brand new Helio strap, merging health and tracking data into the app all at the same time. That kind of flexibility is helpful when you say want to sleep with the ring or the strap, or have any combination of them on for the best data capture. The only downside I have with this multi-device format is that there is no way right now in the app to filter which piece of data came from which device. This would be useful for when, say, I want to compare steps, calories burnt, or sleep time between 2 devices, or more so if I want to pinpoint and troubleshoot a faulty sensor array or software bug with tech support. This next positive is rather personal. If you've been following my recent Amazfit adventures in any shape or form, you'll know that every single strap I've used has caused massive irritation on my skin between the buckle and the last loop right here. And I still don't think it's allergy related, but rather a weight distribution on the strap itself or material flexibility issue or something. But anyways, the point is, I was crossing my fingers like so hard and hoping that the Balance 2 would be different. And I'm happy to report the strap is fantastic with zero issues so far. Thankfully, the Balance 2 earns its flagship badge in both accuracy and consistency, the important stuff. Basically tracking your activities like stink on the monkey. Outdoors, satellite lock is fast. Within 7 to 8 seconds, it's done. Auto pause and resume, if you so choose to have those options activated, are very responsive, almost to a fault sometimes, but I'll rather that they are fast rather than slothy. And then there is the activity track itself, which is better than the T-Rex 3 in almost every aspect. There's less of a tendency to underreport my steps than before. Heart rate monitoring is quite spot on. The Balance 2, I'll say, still captures my routes more accurately when at speed, like cycling or running briskly, over walking or bushwhacking. I mean, we're talking about 6 to 7 feet off at the worst of times, so not a huge deal for most users. And then there is post-workout analysis, recovery and performance coaching and prediction, which were all easy to digest, yet can be relatively detailed if you like that sort of thing. Sleep monitoring, I'll tell you what, is sneaking closer to my Coros Pace Pro, my favorite right now in this area, in its ability to read my sleep and awake durations and naps with surprising dependability. Now, aside from accuracy, consistency is another important detail I focus on, and here, the watch has continued to punch out numbers that are reliable and steady without odd bugs or fluctuations, so far. Now, my wish list for improvements, I'm still waiting for granular metrics for less mainstream but popular sports that I like to do, like rock climbing, accounting, for fall distances and route grades, and trail difficulty ratings for hiking and mountaineering, for example. And also a master control for auto pause and 3D mapping, because right now I have to remember to toggle them on or off for every single new activity type I use, as well as calorie and step info on the home screen that actually update along with recent tracked activities. My goodness, battery life on this thing is crazy good, guys. So forget the ideal 21 days that the marketing folks want you to hear. That's never relevant. Instead, think real world times, like 8 bloody days with practically every feature turned on. And you'll see why I've distanced myself from Wear OS and Apple Watches lately. The problem with those watches is that they try too hard in being smartphones for your wrists, but end up with so many apps and background services that drain the battery faster than you can say, I need a charger for the car, office, bedside, and kitchen. Yeah, this thing, it just gets most of the core smartwatch stuff done for days and days and days and days. I'm a fan of the form factor. It strikes a balance between handsome looks, thickness, or rather thinness, and capability. It's neither chunky like a T-Rex 3 that tends to get caught on jacket sleeves, nor svelte like a Bip 6 that feels more at home at the office. This thing looks like an expensive timepiece that can also take a beating without batting an eye. This one is a small but important piece to me. The weather widget still doesn't do AQI data points for some reason, and maybe it's part of the outdoor workout section at the top. It's not super clear, but I'll much prefer proper air quality scores and or color codes like other watches do. And I also don't care whether if it's a great day for fishing or washing the car or not. I mean, I love eating fish, but just not catching them, or that I don't wash the car that often per year anyway. So it'll be nice to swap out those feels if I can. I've often said that crowns as scroll wheels are fantastic, but not when their functions are not consistent from screen to screen or app to app. Because on most watch OSs, depending on your settings, rotating the crown at the home screen, for example, either pulls up north or south or left or right pages or widgets, but the crown on the Amazfit does nothing. Some horizontal scroll elements can be scrolled with the crown, such as quick setting pages, but not widgets. Now, it's not a deal breaker by any means, but to me it feels clunky and jarring. Downloading maps via Wi-Fi I think is currently broken, or rather the watch just refuses to connect to Wi-Fi to do anything, which can be a killer if you want to offline your entire state map or something. And I'm sure there's like a technique to this, and I also heard users with mesh networks, which I'm on, not being able to connect at all through Wi-Fi. It's just, you know, more complicated than it needs to be, and I recall that on earlier implementations of the OS, users were accidentally leaving Wi-Fi connected and found their watch batteries like draining super fast, so maybe this is Amazfit's awkward fix? The Amazfit Balance 2. This thing right here is a smartwatch that fits practically every occasion, which is befitting of a flagship device. But from a tracking, fitness, and training perspective, I wouldn't be surprised if the likes of Coros and Garmin have been peeing their pants after this released. So hands down, this is my favorite watch of the year, guys. Now, this watch could be an even bigger winner in my opinion if Amazfit made a smaller version for smaller wrists and catered to the opposite sex. Oh wait, I said sex. Will the evil YouTube overlords flag this video? Oh wait, I just called YouTube evil. That's even worse. Yeah, it's been nice knowing you guys. This might be the end of the channel as we know it. So yeah. Well, that was my take on the Balance 2, and I'm sticking to it. Thanks to Amazfit for sending the watch over, as well as the Helios strap, and entrusting me to share that with you guys. And speaking of you are the best audience ever, guys. Thank you for wasting your time on this channel today. A million like points to y'all. If you like what I do, smack the like button, subscribe and everything, and reshare this with your friends. It would be so much appreciated. And remember to do something loving and kind for somebody in this world, because guess what, guys? If you haven't seen the news out there, the world needs it more than ever, and it starts with you. I love you all very much. Peace out, and God bless.